Have you ever had a client ask you for your trade discount? Well, I certainly have, and let's dig in on how to make the answer to that question work best for you. We'll raise a glass and think tank how we can have more creative freedom, more joy, and more profit in your interior design business. I'm Sandra Funk, and this is Design Sips. Cheers. That one's good.
Cheers, Sandra.
Cheers.
Happy to be here with you today.
Let's do it.
So we actually made an Instagram reel about this exact topic that had 105 saves, 90 shares, over 500 likes, and 15,000 plays.
Thank you, everybody. And when we see a hot topic, we want to go dig in even further. So grab a cocktail of choice, or tea, or water, you do you, and let's get into it.
All right, so let's start with a really common question that we get, which is, what do you say when a client asks you to pass on their trade discount?
So my response is so deadpan and maybe even a little cheeky because I am just very clear. I walked into a potential client site many, many moons ago, and the client was interviewing lots of designers, following lots of designers on Instagram and TV and, in that whole world, to the point where, whenever they've got that shoppable link, she's going to the sources. She knows where the lighting is from. She knows from all the ranges, someone who's super checked in. And so her question was, and do you pass along your trade discount? And I turned to her and I said, no, I don't. That's the part that makes this a business. And I smiled and I kept walking. And, we were walking the job asking, what do you want to do with the space? Da, 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 da. So she laughed out loud and we just kept going, right? I got hired, I got the job, beautiful, beautiful design project. So the bottom line is, it's the tone with which you respond is most important. If you are even a tiny bit apologetic, or unfortunately, we don't, that is unfortunate for who? The client? So you've just told them that hiring you is unfortunate, right? You have to watch your words and you have to watch your tone. When you respond with a smile, when you respond frankly and clearly, when you respond that I'm in business for 5 years, 10 years, 1 year, and I intend to make this business profitable, joyful, and a wonderful service to our community. I transform homes, right? I was going to say change. It's bigger than that. I transform homes from to intentional, right? So own the fact that you are in business for profit. Hello? Otherwise, it's a hobby. If you are a business, it is by definition for profit. And it's perfectly fine to unapologetically own that.
Cheers.
Cheers to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is an odd shame around running a business.
Around making money.
Yeah.
It is. We run into it all the time. I've run into it in my own heart, and I run into it in designers I speak to all the time. Some of that comes from people pleasing. Some of that comes from maybe the desire to not be seen as competitive or driven, right? Maybe we're all afraid of the word bitch because I'm in this for profit, right? Why is that a bad thing? No big company, no male-owned company is apologetic about the fact that they're in business for profit. So why are we, as interior designers, as mostly women-owned businesses, apologetic about making money? It's just downright crazy. And again, I'm not judging anyone for being apologetic or for having shame around profitability or any of that, because I've been there. I've been in the situation where I was playing small for a long time. And at some point, lots of great coaching, lots of really fabulous, tough life lessons. I don't apologize anymore. It's the ultimate stand in your space, right? To say to someone, I'm in business for profit. I want to be here in 5 years. And when you call me and say, let's do the next room, I want to still be in business. I want to be a healthy business. I want to be able to service you with joy and enthusiasm. And if I am laying off employees and not able to make rent, that's not joyful or enthusiastic, right? I can't focus on you and make your project the very best it can be if I am an unhealthy, struggling business financially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we've all seen our GCs, subcontractors, whoever it is, present their numbers to our exact same client, and it's not the hem and haw.
Yes, it is so true. When you see architect, builder, contractor, insurance agent, lawyer, any professional relationship, these are the fees. That's it. No more talking. There's nothing to explain or tap dance about or go into some long spiel about how long this is going to take and how much effort I put in and my, pedigree and here's where I went to school and this is why and da-da-da. Just this is what I charge. Would you like to participate with me, go on this journey with me or not? Real simple.
Exactly. Okay, so we asked designers to submit their questions around this topic, so let's dive in. Jessica asks, designers are always saying how important it is to be transparent with our pricing. What do you think about that?
Okay. Yes to transparency. Yes to always telling your client exactly how it's going to go down. My design agreement is so clear that I charge reasonable retail pricing. I do not pass along a design discount. There is no point, time, way that a client is privy to my purchasing power. It's just straight up none of their business. What else? My fees are my fees. They're non-negotiable as far as the design fees are concerned. If the client does want to reduce the overall budget that I suggest in the beginning, the only way to do that is to decrease scope. And that's it, kids, right? So when you are that clear and you are that frank, that client that you're talking to is either in or out. There is no constant pressure throughout the rest of the project to decrease, to cut costs, to do this. Like, I told you what this was going to cost. You signed the contract with those numbers. You're either in or you're out. It's so simple when you keep it simple. And when you do it that simple all the way in the potential client process, you are only working with clients that value you to the level that you require to be a profitable, joyful, enthusiastic business. So again, it's about moving that conversation way up in the process. Don't be, 3, 4, 6 months in and the client is running out of money, freaking out, having, panic attacks. Like, move all the financial conversations all the way up to the beginning. Be completely, that is true transparency, right? True transparency is saying, this is going to be a $600,000 project, not, I take a retainer and then I do this and the markup is this, da, 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 da. Like, even if you word spasm them and you just bury them in a lengthy description of the complicated way that you're charging, because my gosh, our industry has got some complicated ways of charging. Even if you bury them in words, do they really know at the end of the day that they need $600,000 to make this project happen? Probably not. They're probably looking at a retainer and some hourly rates and some markup percentages and thinking, yeah, how much could it possibly add up to? But we all know that interior design is very expensive. So, and it's very expensive at $30,000 to the client who's putting in $30,000, and it's very expensive at $3 million. I'm gonna sneeze. Pardon me, y'all. So, everyone's budget is their budget, right? So it's expensive at any range. It's a luxury service. Everyone can go out and get their own furniture and make their house functional. It's luxury when we bring in an interior designer. And at any point in the spectrum, right? It can be a $30,000 luxury, it can be a $3 million luxury. It's a special treat to themselves to have another person come in and give their aesthetic value and their knowledge to our projects. So again, transparency is not about telling them what your net cost on that table is, pointing out that you're gonna make $100 on it and that they're, that is not transparency, that's straight broken business, okay? You do not walk into Bloomingdale's, pick up a beautiful sweater and start chatting up the salesperson on what did you buy the sweater for? What are your margins on this sweater? Are you sharing any of your discount? Because I know you have great buying power. Can you let me know who produced it, how they produced it. Can I go to the manufacturer and have them knit can I go direct? Can I have your wholesale information and buy this sweater direct? Well, I appreciate that you found it, designed it, vetted it, picked it out, and have it in this store for me. I think I'd like to buy that wholesale direct. If you could just hook me up with them. No chance. The first question, the Bloomingdale's person would be like, I gotta go. I'll see you later, right? Especially if you're in New York and you get the little tube. That is just not even crossing your mind. Where in our industry, when in our industry did we get like so super broken that we're sharing our wholesale purchasing information with clients under the guise of transparency? I'm just gonna let that sit there for a second. Who came up with that brilliant idea? And why is that transparency? Again, that's straight crazy. Like, can you imagine going in and seeing a sweater and being like, we purchased this for $30 and we're selling it for $300 because let me tell you people, the markup in retail is bananas. How would that make the client feel who was totally comfortable with a cashmere, gorgeous designer sweater at $300, but now that they know that it was purchased for $30, they're feeling straight ripped off, right? That is such like a broken business model. Even if they bought it for $30 and they're selling it for $60, that would still make that client go, well, why can't I buy it for $30? Who'd you buy it from? Can I get an account? Can I use your account? Would you mind handling that for me for no fees? No, just please fall asleep at night thinking, who came up with this crazy idea and why in the world are we all following along? I would like to banish that idea from our industry and watch our industry thrive. Watch our industry uncomplicate sales. Here is a sofa. It's this much money. Do you want it or don't you? There is no further conversation. And when you say to a client straight out at the beginning of that potential client process, I will not be discussing purchasing, who I'm buying from, how much I'm buying for. That is absolutely not, you're not privy to any of that information, and you explain it from the beginning. If and when that conversation ever comes up, which it doesn't because you've already said it, if it did, you would simply say, oh, that's actually not something that I share, period. Right? You can always go back to the fact that you talked about it in person, one-on-one. It's in your design presentation when you're walking a potential client through what it's like to work with you, and it's in writing in your agreement. I honestly, between saying it to their face, the agreement, and the presentation, I never have that question. Never. But if you did, you would just point to the fact that you pointed out clearly at least 3 times in 3 different ways, because everyone learns differently, that that's not an option. And that's it. Conversation over.
Cheers.
One more cheers. Maybe not one more.
I'm sure there are designers out there right now wondering, Sandra, how can I get my hands on your contract?
Yes, well, so I feel really strongly about our industry having this crutch and this issue, right? Or I don't know if it's a crutch, but this issue. And so one of the things that I've done is create the interior design standard, which is my business model, my contract, my pricing model, how you can get this firm in your pricing and this clear in how you communicate everything with total transparency, but still beneficial to your business. That's all in the interior design standard. So you gotta come check it out. It's the place where all of this lives in the standard.
Yes, perfect. Okay, Holly asks, one of my current clients is constantly searching online for a better price for items that I propose. How do I get them to stop?
They can search all they want. Also in my agreement, it says all purchasing and execution goes through House of Funk. So while a client may be coming to you and saying, oh, Circa's having a sale on lighting, and I noticed that sure looks like that, right? Your response is simply, this is an entire room project. I am not going tit for tat, item for item with you. My services, my business model is based on both the design and purchasing going through my firm. And it's just not an option for you to take my designs and go buy them ad hoc, right? Frank, clear. Also, another way that I love to just completely shut this conversation down, all the way at the beginning, I explain to my clients that I price per room or project. That is also really important to say early on. We will do an itemized budget when we set the budget together. We will go line by line, sofa approximately this, lamps approximately that, right? But when I present those numbers, it will be the entire design and it will be one number per room. And you have to make sure you tell them that ahead of time. And when they ask for a breakdown on item per item, you let them know this is one cohesive design. We do not break it down by item. Is there something aesthetically that's off? Is there something that you're thinking, I'm not so sure about that table? You know, is that why they're asking about numbers? Because maybe that table's really expensive and they're like not sure, are they hesitant about it? Like there's usually more to the story, right? Also, I never show up at a design meeting with not on budget. Like we set a budget together, I am on budget. So there is no price conversation because we've talked about the ballpark numbers before they were my client. We set a budget together in conceptual design and I am on budget in detailed design, come hell or high water, right? So there cannot be a, hey, I want to get the price down because they signed off on that budget with me in a previous meeting. We had a whole conversation, a whole meeting around it. So again, I will show you all of this in crazy detail inside the standard, but when you set up yourself with such clarity and such steps, there really is no ability for a client to go out and try to shop you. And I let them know, with the world and the internet today, you are either committing to purchasing and execution through me or you're not. And you'll be in control of your budget the whole way through. Like you're not gonna sign on with me unless you are on board with the 30,000 or 600,000, right? You're not going to move forward out of the conceptual design phase until we are good with the budget and we agree on it together. So again, by the time we get to the time of purchasing, I'm not having conversations about individual items and better pricing. It just doesn't happen because I've mitigated it all the way through.
Yeah, hearing you talk about this really reminds me of how holistic the standard is, and it really addresses the root problem rather than a symptom issue, which is this question.
Yeah, it's less about how to handle this question when it comes through, and it's more about, I would get this question and I went back to the think tank and I went back to my consultants and my lawyer and my business coach and I worked out how to never have that question again, right? How to absolutely set expectations and boundaries, remind, revise, bring them into the decision making and never ever have that pricing conversation when it's time to place those orders. So yeah, and that's everything. Like anytime we start to get this question, we go all the way back. How can we set expectations and boundaries better so that that's not coming up later?
Like photography.
Yeah, like photography. Like we want to know before we take on a project, are we going to be allowed to photograph it? And also later, I don't want to be running around trying to get, hey client, can you sign this, permission to photograph waiver, la la la. We build it right into our design agreement. So it's my choice then. If a client says, no, we don't want the home photographed, it's then my decision. Do I want to take on this project, or is part of why I want this project because I am so excited to add more to my portfolio, right? But I need to know all the way back then in the beginning. So same thing, like just putting it all the way back to the beginning is really, really huge across the board. And we talk about that. If there's anything that, like all those little details, all the way back to the beginning. And then we also walk you through step by step by step how to present all of that in like a beautiful, clear way so that it's not like a bummer when you're not even your client yet and you're already talking about boundaries and expectations so much, but we do it in a beautiful way. And you can see that we share that actually in our, there's an example module that you can see for that. So there's a lot of ways that you can mitigate all the objections as you go through.
Exactly. So Sandra has so much wisdom to share, so just a reminder to hit subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, if you're here and you're feeling it, hit the button. Why the hell not? Speaking of a joy-filled, profitable business, check out my next video where we talk about increasing cash flow.